Listen, because this isn't just another royal rumor floating around the internet. This is the kind of allegation that, if it ever gets backed by real proof, could detonate Meghan Markle's entire public story in one brutal blast. The name at the center of it? Piers Morgan. And according to what's being claimed, he's not throwing shade this time. He's hinting at fresh evidence that could flip the Meghan pregnancy narrative upside down. And the second he even suggested it, people didn't just gossip, they froze. Because the allegation isn't small, it isn't polite. It's the kind of claim nobody wants to say out loud. What if Meghan's pregnancy wasn't exactly what the public was told? Now, before we go any further, this is all allegation and speculation unless proven with verifiable documents. But here's why the story has people spiraling. The trail being described doesn't lead to a palace, and it doesn't lead to a hospital. It leads somewhere so bizarre it sounds like a movie plot. A small shop, a costume prosthetic shop, the kind of place that doesn't sell party masks or cheap props. This is the kind of workshop that builds hyper-realistic prosthetics used in film and TV. Pieces made to look real under bright lights. Pieces designed to move like the real thing. Scars, limbs, and yes, pregnancy bellies. And the claim is this. A shop owner allegedly says a message came in connected to Meghan Markle or her representatives. Not a casual question. Not, hey, what do you do? But a commission with details, measurements, fitting notes, instructions so specific it sounded professional. As if the person ordering knew exactly what they needed and how it had to sit on the body. Now ask yourself why this detail is making people's stomachs drop. Because in normal life, who orders something like that? Film studios, production teams, actors prepping for a role, not someone living one of the most watched pregnancies on the planet. And if that request ever existed, even once, it doesn't automatically prove anything. But it does something more dangerous. It introduces doubt. And once doubt gets into a story, the story doesn't stay the same. It becomes a crime scene. People start rewatching every clip, every photo, every sweet moment, and looking for cracks. Not because they want to destroy someone, because the human mind can't leave a mystery alone. Here's where it gets even messier. Because once that prosthetic allegation entered the chat, the spotlight didn't stay on Meghan. It swung hard onto Prince Harry. And this is where the story turns into a two-road nightmare, because there are only two possibilities people argue about, and neither one is clean. Path 1, Harry knew. If Harry knew about any kind of staged element, if he knew there was something artificial being used, then that means the public wasn't just watching a private journey. They were watching a controlled narrative, a performance dressed as real life. That paints Harry not as a confused husband, but as an active protector of an illusion. And if that were true, imagine the scale of it. The camera moments, the hand-holding, the speeches, the protective interviews, all of it becomes something else, something planned. But then there's path 2, Harry didn't know. And honestly, this path is darker, because how does a husband living day to day with his pregnant wife not notice something that massive? How is it hidden inside a marriage? What kind of wall exists between two people for that kind of secret to survive? If Harry didn't know, then people start asking the brutal questions. Was he being managed? Was he being kept in the dark? Was he defending a story he didn't fully understand? And neither path gives you a fairy tale. One path makes him complicit. The other path makes him a victim. And both versions make the marriage look fragile. Now let's talk about why this rumor hits harder than most. Because for Meghan and Harry, image isn't just image, it's business. When they stepped away from royal duties, they didn't carry the palace with them. They didn't carry the institution. They carried something else, their story. And their story became their leverage, their brand, their proof of purpose, their key to deals, documentaries, interviews, and global attention. People invested in their truth. Brands partnered with their message. Millions followed their reinvention. So an allegation tied to pregnancy, motherhood, something deeply personal, doesn't just become tea. It becomes a wrecking ball aimed at credibility. Because the moment the public even imagines a manufactured detail, the mind leaps to the next question automatically. If something was staged, what else was staged? And that's where the rumor gets explosive, because it invites a whole chain of speculation people online love to run wild with: surrogacy theories, secrecy claims, why hide it, narratives, and 1,000 ugly assumptions. To be clear, speculation is not proof, but this is how rumors spread. One question becomes a hallway of 100 doors. And the really disturbing part is how doubt changes old footage. Once doubt enters, people don't look at the same images the same way. A belly touch that looked sweet becomes calculated in someone's head. A pose that looked natural becomes staged to someone else. An interview about loneliness gets reinterpreted as acting. Doubt doesn't kick the door down, it slides in quietly and repaints the whole room. And that's exactly why this story has tension, because it's now sitting on one dangerous hinge: receipts. If the shop owner ever produced anything, an invoice, an email chain, a record, a photo log, anything that could be verified independently, this wouldn't be a gossip storm. It would be a global scandal. But until that exists publicly, it remains an allegation. Still potent, still viral, still poisonous, because it plants a what if that people can't stop repeating. And here's the part that makes this feel like a cliff edge. Even without proof being shown in public, the damage of the idea is already happening in real time. Because people are now waiting, not for another speech, not for another appearance. They're waiting for the next piece, waiting to see if this becomes nothing or becomes the story that never stops. And this is where the silence starts screaming louder than any headline. Because once a rumor like this escapes into the open, it doesn't just fade, it waits. It sits in the background while every move Meghan and Harry make gets filtered through suspicion. Every appearance, every carefully worded statement, every absence becomes fuel. Not proof, but pressure. What's chilling is how fast the public conversation shifts from "did this happen?" to "why hasn't it been shut down?" In the modern media world, silence isn't neutral. Silence gets interpreted. And right now, that silence has allowed the narrative to grow teeth. People aren't just debating a pregnancy anymore. They're questioning trust. They're questioning timelines. They're questioning why certain medical details were always vague. They're questioning why so many moments were tightly controlled. And once the internet smells uncertainty, it doesn't let go, it excavates. Archived photos get reanalyzed. Old interviews get clipped and slowed down. Body language experts flood timelines. Self-proclaimed insiders suddenly remember things they never said before. Former staffers are dragged back into speculation whether they asked to be or not. This isn't about one accusation anymore. It's about whether the public believes Meghan and Harry when they speak. That's the real danger. Because their post-royal life was built on a promise. Our truth, our voice, our version. If even a crack appears in that foundation, everything built on top of it starts shaking. Media deals, public sympathy, moral authority. And then there's the question nobody wants to ask out loud, but everyone is thinking, if there was nothing to hide, why does this story still have oxygen? Supporters argue it's simple: misogyny, obsession, hatred, and years of tabloid toxicity coming back around. That Meghan has always been targeted, always scrutinized, always doubted, no matter what she does. To them, this is just another attempt to humiliate a woman who refused to play the palace's game. But critics aren't backing down either. They argue that transparency would end this instantly, that a single, clear clarification, medical, legal, documented, would bury the rumor for good. And the fact that it hasn't happened only sharpens their suspicion. And stuck in the middle of this collision is Harry, because whether he knew everything or not, he's now tied to the fallout. Every defense he's ever made for Meghan gets replayed under a harsher lens. Every time he spoke about protecting his family, people now wonder what exactly he was protecting, and from whom. That's the part nobody escapes. Not Meghan, not Harry, not even their children, who become unwilling symbols in a war they didn't choose. And this is why the story refuses to die, because it's not fueled by evidence, it's fueled by unresolved tension. The world is waiting to see if this remains a rumor whispered online, or if someone somewhere decides to go public with something undeniable. A document, a message, a receipt, one concrete detail that flips the balance. Until then, the narrative stays suspended in midair, dangerous, speculative, and corrosive. And maybe that's the most unsettling part of all. Not that the allegation exists, but that it lingers. Because in the court of public opinion, unanswered questions don't disappear. They metastasize. And once a story reaches this stage, even the truth, whatever it is, may not be enough to put everything back the way it was. Sometimes the damage isn't caused by lies, it's caused by doubt that never gets resolved. And right now, that doubt has Meghan and Harry standing under a spotlight that isn't warming, it's burning. Isn't warming, it's burning. Isn't warming, it's burning.